Total War Saga Troy is the latest release in the now 20-year-old Total War franchise. A staple of the strategy genre, Total War games, in my opinion, have always offered one of the strongest and most exciting experiences in terms of commanding troops on the field of battle. In 2018, Creative Assembly introduced us to the concept of the Total War Saga. The idea behind the Saga titles was that they were a small-scale, intimate campaign rather than the large, epic campaigns of the full Total War titles. It should also be mentioned that the Saga games are cheaper than a full title, with many people, including myself, bagging Troy for free by downloading it on its release day. The first Saga title, Thrones of Britannia, was met with a frosty reception, and its player base soon fell off a cliff, and I was intrigued to see if Creative Assembly's second attempt at a Saga title could stick the landing. I'm Strategy Tom, and this is the review of A Total War Saga Troy. For the longest time, the Total War games dealt purely with historical settings. Later, with the release of the two Warhammer titles, they ventured into the world of fantasy. With Troy, we are introduced to a strange mix of the two. The game is based around the Trojan War that is detailed in Homer's epic poem, the Iliad. The Iliad tells the tale of the power-hungry Mycenaean king Agamemnon, who wishes to cross the Aegean Sea into Asia Minor and claim the city of Troy, the richest and most powerful city of the age. There are various characters, all of whom appear in the game. This is one part of Troy that really impresses, and that is the connection you can make to the characters and their stories. Whichever character you choose, your playstyle is geared towards their desires. Agamemnon wishes power overall, so it is imperative that you vassalize Greece under your rule before you think about making the journey to Troy. Achilles simply wishes fame and fortune on the battlefield, while Hector of Troy is a proud and dutiful man who wishes only to protect his homeland. Of course, the Iliad is mostly, if not totally fictional, and it's even debatable whether or not the city of Troy ever existed. I imagine most of you here watching this review know the basics of a Total War game, but for all you newbies, I'll do a quick summary. Total War games are played on two maps, the campaign map and the battlefield map. On the campaign map, you move your armies and spend your resources on new men, agents, or building upgrades for your cities. You can also engage in diplomacy and trade here too. When you're done with all that, you hit end turn, and the AI makes its moves and the process repeats. But if one of your armies should come face to face with an enemy, we zoom into the battlefield map. On the battlefield map, you control your army in real time to engage and hopefully defeat the enemy. These battles are the main selling point of any Total War game. Unlike most strategy games, you don't simply click on a little sprite and have him wave a sword at his foe until one of their health bars drops to zero. No, you'll be controlling units that contain large numbers of individual soldiers. Your success or failure depends on many factors, such as whether or not you have the high ground, if you're fighting from the front, or if you've been hit in the flank or rear, the level of fatigue in your soldiers, amongst many other conditions. They are fantastic, and if you've never played a Total War game, they are worth checking out for the battles alone. The battles in Troy are solid. I'm trying to remain objective and compare them to other games at large, rather than just simply looking at other Total War games, because if I did that, I might not be so favourable. My biggest gripe with the battles in this game is a complete lack of unit variety. By and large, your armies will consist of light skirmishers and heavy infantry, mostly spearmen. There is cavalry in the game, but it's very difficult to get, and it's mostly chariots or light cavalry. A staple tactic of the Total War franchise has been the hammer and anvil tactic. Your infantry engage with the enemy infantry, while your cavalry flanks around before delivering a devastating charge into the rear of their line. That isn't much of an option in Troy. Troy's battles sometimes feel like a child smashing their toys over and over again until one of them breaks. I'm not saying that the battles are terrible, far from it. and maybe my frustration comes from a lack of skill on my part, but I don't think I'm the only one who takes umbrage with the lack of variety in terms of unit types and tactics. Further to this, siege battles are an underwhelming affair. I have to give credit to the design and layout of the settlements themselves. They are all impressively built into the natural layout of the surrounding area, with cliffs and rocks providing natural choke points and tactical high ground to use. I'm just a little disappointed at the lack of siege weapons and abilities that are available to the player. In the end game, you can unlock things like siege towers and even the famed Trojan horse, but for the majority of the campaign, all you'll have is a battering ram. Infantry units can approach a wall and then magically produce ladders to place on the wall and scale them. It's a poor effort overall on the siege battle. Given the epic pseudo-historical setting of Troy, we see the return of hero characters. Hero characters replace the general's bodyguard of old Total War games, and you know what? I don't hate them as much as I thought I would. It's a really cool idea, seeing an individual behemoth of a character being able to charge into a line and single-handedly turn the tide of battle. I love how much that fits in with the theme and tone of a game with the Saga moniker. However, I just don't think they're quite there yet. Some people have said they're overpowered. I half agree with that because they're meant to be overpowered. That's the point of them. I don't mind their high attack and morale. It's the high defense stats that I think need to be lowered. Why defense? Well, I don't think these heroes die easily enough. So, picture this. The two lines have met on the field and are engaging. The enemy hero throws himself into the centre of the line in order to break my ranks. In response, I send my hero to meet him. The two square off. The men surrounding them back away and allow the epic engagement to commence. And then it just kinda keeps going. For age. In fact, they fight back and forth for so long that the rest of the battle has almost reached its conclusion. The enemy army is broken and is routing. Seeing this, the enemy hero breaks and runs away. Because he's still got a chunk of his health left, some of my men chase him in a sort of comical Benny Hill style and hack away at him until finally, mercifully, he is sent to Hades. I like the concept of hero characters, I really do. It fits the setting of an epic poem, seeing two warriors clashing. But the fact that these epic engagements often end anticlimactically is such a shame. That being said, such a change is only one patch away, and I'm hoping that in a short while, this complaint is obsolete. Diplomacy is one area of Total War games that always seemed a little lacking, until a massively successful overhaul in Total War 3 Kingdoms. I'm glad to say that the diplomacy is as good, if not better, in Troy. One thing I particularly enjoyed about it is the new resource system. Previously, every building you built and unit you trained cost money. Troy has done away with the concept of a single currency and has instead split them up into 5 resources you must now manage: food, wood, stone, bronze and gold. Buildings typically require wood and stone. Low-level troops only require food, while more heavily armoured variants will also cost you bronze. This is one of the reasons I've enjoyed the diplomacy aspect of the game. Finally, trade agreements have obvious and tangible benefits that you need to carefully manage. I found myself with an abundance of wood, but as I levied larger armies, my food upkeep started to struggle. I had to trade with multiple partners in order to get the resources I needed, carefully selecting factions who had plentiful food supplies or who were struggling for wood, as I would get a better deal with them as opposed to a faction that was struggling for food. For years, Total War players have been puzzled as to the mechanics of the trading rights deal with other factions. Now, I'm happy to report we have a Total War game where the trading of resources is necessary, simple and meaningful. In my time with this game, I played as Agamemnon. As Agamemnon, you are encouraged to vassalize the small Greek kingdoms around you. And to aid and support you in this, there are various gameplay mechanics that reward you for taking on more vassals. Agamemnon can demand tribute from his vassals as one-off payments, as well as the constant supply of extra resources sent your way by your vassals. In addition to this, he can assign various hero units in his court to different positions of power. This grants them buffs and other advantages. These are gameplay mechanics that are exclusive to Agamemnon. Each faction and each hero has their own playstyle and set of individual mechanics, which really lends itself to replayability. As I said earlier, this game is truly a saga, and you'll get the most enjoyment out of it by adopting the mindset of your chosen character. The presentation of a Total War game has always been another high point of the series. In this regard, I'm afraid Troy doesn't live up to its predecessors. The settlements that dot the campaign map are simplistic and cartoon looking. When zoomed out, they look like nothing more than a stone circle. The battlefields are, aesthetically speaking, all an incredibly similar mix of rocky scrubland. I guess I can look past this one, as the entire map is one single country, but it is tiring looking at the same map over and over. This, coupled with the lack of variety in terms of gameplay options, means that Troy's battles quickly get tiresome. The engagements themselves are dull affairs too. Somehow, the fighting animations have regressed horribly from previous titles, with soldiers just poking spears at one another and randomly throwing up a big boot like a weird cross between Leonidas and Drew McIntyre. I can only speculate that the lack of solid kill animations might be rectified in an up-and-coming Blood and Gore DLC, but Total War fans for years now have chafed under this somewhat shady practice. Every time a new title is released, it's gonna cost you an extra couple of quid just to add in some blood. Proper impact mechanics have always been an up and down affair with previous titles, and again, Troy seems to have regressed in this aspect. When two armies meet on the field of battle, I really want to feel the experience. Hundreds of men charging and then clashing together in combat should be a visceral and thrilling experience. But here it's all a bit meh. Ranged weapons are little better. Again, I want to feel the impact of arrows and javelins striking, but all we get here is a lifeless hit, with the occasional unit being thrown comically backwards in a physics-defying way. I just expect better from a series whose bread and butter is a satisfying combat experience. I think poor sound design might bear some of the blame for this too. Perhaps I wouldn't be so disappointed if I wasn't a Total War veteran and I hadn't seen what had come before. A Total War Saga Troy is a good game that could have been great. Troy has a narrative-driven campaign that truly lives up to the Saga name. It's a well-told story with various different playstyles and game mechanics that encourages multiple playthroughs. One of the weaker aspects of previous Total War titles in diplomacy and trading, and made it into one of the stronger and more meaningful parts of the game. I hope in future titles they carry this through. But bizarrely enough, Troy takes one of the strongest aspects of the Total War franchise and drops the ball with it. So overall, how to rate it? The premise. Pros. An epic, narrative-driven campaign, and multiple characters with differing playstyles and goals. Cons. Total War traditionalists may not like the closed, more linear style gameplay.
You will soon hold the enemy's victory.
Gameplay. Pros. Diplomacy and trading have been overhauled to excellent effect, and the hero units provide interesting new options and challenges. Cons. Lack of unit variety makes battles repetitive and less dynamic, and siege battles are poorly fleshed out. Presentation. The pros. The cinematic story videos are, as always, fantastic, and Troy boasts a high quality soundtrack. Cons. Poor battlefield animations for your units, along with a really underwhelming collision impact. So, like I said, it's a good game, but it's not great. I was toying between a 6 and a 7 for my overall mark. One thing I have had to remind myself is that this is not a full game. The Saga titles are cheaper, in so much that I, and many others, got this game for free. So that being said, I am going to be generous, and I'm going to give A Total War Saga Troy a 7 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. What did you think of A Total War Saga Troy? Some people are saying they hate it, some people are loving it. Are you one of those people, or do you agree with me? Tell me what you thought and tell me why. Sound off in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I'm Strategy Tom, and I'll see you next time.